I'm not here to teach you what to think, I'm here to teach you how to think. Hello and welcome to the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. I'm Frank B. Kermit. The point of this seminar is to create a forum where guys who are adult male virgins can learn and talk about some of their struggles, some of their challenges, some of the things that they will face as an adult male virgin, some of the pain, and let those guys out there who are listening know you're not alone in this. There are other people who are the age of majority and still virgins. There's an unfortunate stigma attached to guys who are adults and still virgins. Women have a different stigma, but this seminar is going to focus on the plight of men in this situation. I do want to make a point right now, and that is, if you are an adult-aged virgin and you're not interested in losing your virginity, let's say you have religious reasons, you have certain moral reasons that you don't want to have sex, that's okay. If you're happy with being an adult-aged virgin, then put down your CD player, don't listen to this MP3, there's no point. This is for guys who actually want to lose their virginities. We're going to be talking about the issue of credibility for adult-aged virgins. We're going to be talking about the signs of an adult-aged virgin, an adult male virgin, how to pick them out in the crowd, and we're going to be talking about how to lose your virginity. Now, I want to make it clear that you won't be hearing the voices of the people here in the room with me. I am looking to protect their reputation so that their voices will not be recognized here on tape. Every time they have a question, they will forward their question to my assistant, and my assistant will be reading out the question for them. But I do want to make it a point to prove to you, the gentlemen listening to this tape, that you're not alone, that there are actually adult male virgins out there, just like you, who are struggling with this very issue. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to ask my assistant to get the microphone ready. I'm going to ask everybody in the room just to give a very light applause, so this way you know that there are other people struggling with this. Is the microphone ready? Yes, it is. All right, guys, just give me a nice light applause. Okay. That's just to let you know that you're not alone and that there are guys in this room right now who are participating in this seminar. Let me tell you a little story. I was 17 years old. I was still a virgin. And it was always something that bothered me. Sometime after I hit puberty, I started to really feel the hunger, the wanting of being with a woman and having sex. But for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. I was too shy, I was too nervous, uncalibrated, didn't know how to handle the intense emotions, didn't get myself into a position where I could have sex. By the time I was 17, I maybe kissed about 5 different girls. I touched one down there, but that was about it. I was the guy, however, that women would call up at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell me about all the problems that they've been having. All the problems they were having with their boyfriends, that they were having sex with. One day, sitting in the cafeteria at college, I was talking to 2 girls that I had gone to high school with. It was our first year of college, and during that time, you don't necessarily hang out with the people who you hung out with in college. You pretty much hang out with whatever familiar face you can find. And I don't remember the exact nature of the conversation, but one of the girls, let's call her Alice. Alice was sort of a hippie type of girl. And the conversation had somehow gotten onto the topic of whether or not Alice should have sex with a male friend. That her and a male friend had been talking about it, and she was wondering whether or not she should have sex with him. I did not know whether or not Alice had had sex before. But she had said something along the lines of, well, why not just have sex with a friend? I mean, it's not going to change anything. Now, being that guy who was on the phone with women at 3 o'clock in the morning, I knew full well that when you have sex with somebody, it does change the nature of your dynamic. It does change the nature of how you relate to each other. That's why if you've ever had a friends with benefit, also called a fuck buddy, something that you're going to experience at some point, you're going to have to train yourself to behave in exactly the same way you did before the two of you had sex so that nobody finds out. It's one of those very, very underground, quiet type of relationships that you don't display. So she was asking me these questions. And I knew. I said, well, of course sex is going to change the way you two relate to each other. And she says, well, I don't see why it would. And we got into a bit of a heated argument. And part of my frustration was the fact that I was the guy that every girl would call up and talk about their problems in their sex lives. I knew that, yes, having sex is going to change that dynamic of the relationship. And in the middle of that heated argument, right there in the cafeteria, she just looks right at me and says, have you ever had sex? And she said it pretty loud. You know those scenes in movies where somebody says something really loud and everybody around you gets quiet? Yeah, that's what it felt like. In the middle of a cafeteria, first year in college, I'm getting to this heated argument and this girl says, have you ever had sex? Now the girl that was sitting with us, who was watching this entire thing unfold, she turns to me and says, Frank, don't answer that. And the hippie girl turns over to the other girl, we'll call the second girl Veronica, and says, why not? You're the one who thinks he can't get laid. I was so embarrassed, especially because she had spoken so loud that the people sitting around us, at the tables around us, started to look over like, what the hell's going on over there? So I just sat there in utter silence, and I was already angry at this point. When the hippie girl just saw that how I was reacting, she realized, oh, maybe she went a bit too far, and says, well, you know what? I really got to go. I'll talk to you guys later. And she gets up and she walks away. And so there I sit, still not saying a word. Up until that point, there were nights where I would cry. Because I was thinking, why doesn't a girl like me enough to want to be with me? I was always hoping that someday I would meet that one girl and have the romantic, oh my God, I've met you and it's wonderful. Or maybe it was a girl who I really liked and she would come around and decide, oh wow, I don't want to be with a jerk anymore. I want to be with Frank. And it never happened. And I used to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why don't these girls like me? What am I doing wrong? And when she put me on the spot like that, it tapped into every single insecurity I'd ever had. After Alice left, Veronica's there sitting with me, and she doesn't know what to say. And I turn around to her and I say, well, I feel embarrassed now. And then Veronica said something to try and comfort me. She says, you know what, Frank? It's not that big of a deal. I've never had sex either. I'm a virgin. And I'm 17. And my boyfriend, he's 23. And we've been together for 3 years. And he's still a virgin. And we have a great relationship. And that's when I wanted to turn to her and say, well, how do you know? The guy is 23 years old. I mean, I'm feeling this pain of being a virgin. He is, at this point, 6 years older than me. And I can't imagine being a virgin at the age of 23. I can't imagine what he must be going through. And so the first things that I'm thinking, because again, I was always that guy that girls would call up and say, oh, my boyfriend is cheating on me. Oh, my boyfriend is doing this. Oh, my boyfriend is doing that. Oh, my boyfriend had sex with me and I think he stretched me. So I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. How does she know that she has a great relationship? They've never had sex. How do they know that they're even going to be compatible? How do they know? And that's when I realized all the questions I was asking myself about Veronica was exactly the same type of questions that Alice was asking me. That experience was so humiliating. It made me face that demon something that had been bugging me every single night when I go to bed, knowing that I'm going to bed and there's nobody sharing that bed with me. And it finally made me face it in daylight. It wasn't something I was facing only at night. It was something I was facing at daylight, in the middle of the afternoon, and it changed everything. And that's when I said, okay, that's it. I have to lose my virginity.